Alright guys, so today little project that I'm exploring is going to be building or developing a natural spring water collection point. As I mentioned in my food plot video, I have a nice stream that runs through my property. It's a nice, you see I'm standing in it as we speak. It's a nice hard sand bottom stream that runs down to a swampy area down there and connects to a large river at the back of my property. In walking around my property, I've noticed a couple areas that I believe natural springs are spouting up out of the ground, and one of those is this point right here. There's the bank, and I don't know if you can see the flow, but there's a pretty solid flow coming out of the bank here and into the river. If you get real close, you can see there's almost there's a hole right there in the bank where that water is coming out of. So that's coming up out of the ground somewhere. So what my goal is today is to try to identify where it's coming up out of the ground, and hopefully I can dig back a little bit into the banking and tap into that water. I've been watching a lot of videos and reading up a lot about creating a spring water collection point that pipes into a spring box and ultimately can be pumped up to your house or a holding tank or whatever you choose to do with it. My house is probably, kind of see it through the woods there, maybe 150 yards from here. So if I'm able to get a good source of water, I can definitely pump it up to the house. It's also, we're right behind one of my food plots. You can't really see it through the thick stuff here, but I was thinking I could pump it into a 55-gallon drum and use that to water the food plots when it gets dry and need be. So what I'm going to try to do, I don't know how frozen the ground is, but I'm going to try to dig back, ideally maybe a foot or so into that bank, because I don't want, when this river rises in the rain, I don't want the river waters and runoff to get into my water collection point. So I'm going to see if I can dig back, isolate identify where that water is coming from, and make a water collection point. So I'll start, I'm going to try to dig a little bit and I'll let you know how it goes. We'll see. Alright guys, so after a few minutes of digging here, I have about let's see if the light, maybe 1.5 foot deep hole that I dug approximately 2.5 feet from the bank. Again, the source of the spring that I'm seeing coming out of the bank is right there. You can see that water. If I can hold the camera still, you can see the water flow even through the camera here. And there's the bank, and here's the hole. So my hope was that I would kind of intercept a line of water, saying that maybe traveling under the ground. There's obviously quite a bit of water in the ground here, but I don't think I really hit that line of water that's coming up out of the ground. It may be closer to the bank. It's pretty interesting here. After I got through the first layer of topsoil here, all the organic matter and dirt, the soil below it is all sand, fine dark sand, which is really interesting. And then I go a little further down, start hitting the clay-like layer. So just pretty cool. Obviously the hole is collecting water slowly as we speak, but my goal is to identify a steady flow, not just a seepage through the ground. So I think I'm going to try digging a little bit closer to the bank, or maybe starting right on the edge of that bank and seeing if I can follow it back. It could just be coming up right under the edge of the bank here. As I said, I would have liked it to be a little further back, but first objective was to identify where the water is coming up, and then we'll formulate a plan to create a collection point that's not going to be overflown by spring runoff. You can see the water does come up to about here sometimes, so I don't want that. But interesting so far. I'm gonna keep poking around and I'll let you know how it goes. So there's the original hole. Here's the river, and after about one shovelful at the edge of the bank, right where I had seen the water coming out, you can see there's a very strong flow of water coming out right there. So that's a start. This hole just filled up immediately. Granted, it is right on the edge of the river, so there's a lot of groundwater, but that looks to me like a much stronger flow than we'd get just from the water draining out of this muddy soil here. So I am going to explore this a little further, dig back, and see if I can locate where that water comes out. Stay tuned. Jackpot. Alright, so there's the original hole, just to show you proximity. Here's the bank, the river. I dug back a little bit, and that's coming straight out of the bank. So this is not river runoff. It's a very strong flow, so I'm pumped. That is our spring. So now, as I said, I'd like to get back away from the banking a little bit. Look how quick that hole's filling up. I'm going to follow that back, see how far back it goes, and then if I get far enough back, I can select a location to do a nice water collection point. So that is, I'm pretty pumped. It's a hell of a flow coming out of that ground right there. So keep going, see where it leads us. Okay, here we go. You can see it. It's coming straight out of the wood line. Just to give you some perspective, there's the water coming out. Here's the hole that I've dug so far, and here's the river. So that's coming. So that water is running over a layer. There's this between the sand and the compost, or organic matter layer, the dirt. So I'm gonna watch this for a little bit, see if the flow continues the way it does, and see what happens. Might be time to build a collection point. Looks like some pretty clean water coming out of there. Alright, so here we are. I've identified the spring or the vein of water that's running under the ground here. As you guys can see, coming out of that bank there. As I said, it looks like it's running between the layer of sand that I dug into about 6 to 8 inches below the topsoil and the topsoil. So it looks like there's a vein of water running between those two layers. And that's what we're seeing. So I filled in the original holes that I dug, and with the mud and silt I tried to kind of recreate the riverbank here that I originally dug into and messed up. So try not to disturb this area too much. but I'll probably throw some clover seed or something down on that muddy silt. I'm sure that's really fertile stuff, so I'm sure it'll have no problem growing there for some erosion control. So you can see I dug a pretty good size hole, probably 1.5 feet wide by 2 to 3 feet long. It's filling up pretty rapidly. The flow has slowed a little bit, but it's still steady. So I'm just hoping that it's not a vein of groundwater. So what I'm going to do is leave this be for a while. You see the hole's pretty muddy. Let all that silt and everything settle. See how much it fills up on its own. I'm pretty sure I dug down to the layer of clay and rock that's about 2.5 feet down from the topsoil. So that way it should be a nice clean bottom. Not too much mud and silt once it all settles, and I'll come back down probably in a few hours just to take a look, see what it's doing, make sure the water's still flowing, and then maybe tomorrow, or after I let this thing settle and sit for a while, I'll come down and try to get that water collection point built. I was obviously digging around the edge. I was stepping on the topsoil and everything, so I think I may have compressed that, the natural canal that it had eroded through the soil. So I'm going to also let it kind of reroute itself and push all that dirt and soil that I compressed out. So hopefully we'll still have a nice steady flow when I come back down. So here's what it looks like now. And when I get back down here, I'll bring you guys with me and we'll check it out, see how it's looking. Real quick before I head back to the house, what I did was I made a little trench, just a tiny one, flows into the river. So that'll help get all that silt and any debris out of there, and also encourage the flow of water to continue to pull this way. I was thinking about it, and if the hole filled up completely up to the ground level, that water may try to find another path to the river. So I encourage the flow of water. It's already flowing pretty good. Bunch of silt going out into the river, as you can see, so that'll filter itself out. So now I'm going to leave this here, let all the silt and mud settle, and be back a little later. Alright guys, here we are. It is about 3.5 hours later, back down at the spring that I dug out earlier. You can see it's still flowing nice and strong. The silt has settled quite a bit, and it's still flowing out the little trench I dug. It's even getting down to the sand bottom going down the trench. So strong flow down to the stream, constant. So that's awesome. It means there's still a nice flow of water coming out of there. The spring is actually under the water level now, so you can't see it too much, but you can still see the water moving. It's pumping it out pretty good right there. So that's great. I definitely achieved what I was hoping to today. So I'm going to leave this overnight. If I have time tomorrow, I may try to put my the PVC system for the collection point together and get that started and see how far I get, because it looks like we still strong flow water. I'm hoping that it stays constant, even when things get dry in the summer, but that'll remain to be seen. But I'm gonna give it a shot, so we'll see what happens. But all right, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, and if you were thinking about doing something like this yourself, maybe a little bit helpful. But it is what, February 27th here in Massachusetts, and I mean, if you have enough property, I'm sure that you can find a spring of your own. Try something like this. All right, thank you.